Shalom, peace be with you. Welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're going to look at Numbers chapter 13. The title of this video is Caleb's True Report. There are 34 verses. Beginning in verse 3, we see a difference here. Spy versus search. I should say, is that verse 2? That's verse 2. Verse 2 says, spy the land versus search the land. We have to remember they are on a mission, not just to look at the land. They were on a mission for recon, to gather intelligence, to spy out the land and see, is this a good land? What are we dealing with here? And it says here, for a possession, that was omitted, as well as according to their families was omitted as well. Okay, moving on to, we're going to ignore these verses with the name differences. I'll put that in the description below. Verse 18, we see the next significant difference here. Go up by this wilderness, it says here in the Septuagint. Or should be 17. Okay, I'm a little bit, all my verses are staggered. So verse 17 says, go up by this wilderness. You shall go up to the mountain versus get you up this way southward. It's not just a direction. The Septuagint is telling us they actually had to go through a wilderness, like a forested area or somewhere where it was not civilized. It was not, man did not create their own structures there. Verse 19, we see a significant difference here where it talks about the walls, the walled cities in particular, or unwalled. It says here, they're supposed to spy and see what kind of people's on it. They have to see whether the walls, whether the city they live in is walled or unwalled, versus are they tents or strongholds? That's a pretty big difference. A tent or stronghold is not the same as a wall. Stronghold, okay, I'll give you that. It's kind of similar, but there's no determined wall. It's not specific to having a wall. Stronghold could be a dungeon, a keep. It could be simply a fortified place, but not walled. And tents are very drastically different from a walled city. Looking at verse 20 now, it says rich or poor versus fat or lean. We see trees. There are trees in it versus wood. So it's not wood, it's not lumber, it's actual fruit-bearing trees or some sort of trees, maybe cedar. Doesn't have to be fruit-bearing, but it does say trees. And then we see, you shall preserve. You shall persevere, pardon me. And you shall persevere versus you, be you of good courage. So it's one thing to be of good courage. I'm not discouraging having courage, but that's just not what is being said here. Persevering means regardless of what you see there, regardless of what happens, you will persevere. You're going to stay the course. You're not going to be discouraged. You're going to persevere and take of the fruits of the land. You're going to do this. Persevere to the end until you come back. And then we see an omission, and the days were the days of spring. So this could be most likely between the first month to the fourth month. Here it says the first ripe grapes. It is not specific to the month or whether it is days of spring, or it is more specific in the sept. These are the days of spring. Okay, moving on to verse 24. We see here a place, or I should say verse 23. Again, my verses are staggered. I think I was using a different website at that point. So verse 23 says, the valley of the cluster versus the brook of eshcol. Again, most likely a translation, cluster and eshcol. And we see an omission, and surveyed it. So they surveyed it as per verses 19 to 21. If we look at those verses, uh, see they're surveying about the land. They're looking what kind of people lives on it. They're looking at the trees, the plantation, or I should say vegetation, not plantation. They're looking at surveying the land from the wilderness of Sin to Rub. They're just looking at it all. They're really doing their recon. They're doing their diligence here. And again, the verse 23 of the Septuagint is only being confirmed that it is correct because, again, they surveyed it. And that's not even mentioned in the Masoretic that they surveyed it in this verse. It was omitted. And then we see here a bough. They cut down a bough, which is a thick main branch, versus a branch. A branch could be small, not necessarily a main branch. And I don't think such a small branch could carry these pomegranates and figs and grapes that were very heavy and very large. Uh, we have a significant difference here. It says staves. Staves are two or more staves versus a staff, which is singular, just one staff. We see an addition in verse 28. It says here, and surely, verse 27. Uh, they reported to him and said, okay, we came into the land, but here it says in the Masoretic, and surely it flows with milk and honey. It's not a matter of their opinion. It's a fact. It's a reality, or it isn't. It is or it isn't. That's the situation here, and in the uh, Masoretic, it's not exactly sure. Surely it flows with milk and honey. No, it is. It just does. A land flowing with milk and honey. It's not their opinion. It just is. Verse 29, bold versus strong. I should say verse 28 again. All my verses are staggered here, so I have to correct that. The nation that dwells upon it is bold versus strong. Bold could mean courageous, could mean a lot of different things, a lot of different connotations with that. We see in verse 29 another omission. The Evite has been omitted pretty much in all of the Masoretic. You don't really hear, you don't see any mention of the Evite or the Hivite. They just call them the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, but they don't talk about the Hivites for some reason. Verse 30, we see a big difference. This is a big difference omitted, and this is most likely, this is why I'm calling this video Caleb's True Report. It said Caleb stayed the people, so he stopped them from speaking before Moses and said to them, no, no. Why did he say no? Because they gave their negative report. And Caleb said, no, we will go up, but we will go up by all means, and will inherit it, for we shall surely prevail against them. He has to say this, no or nay, with authority in order to get the people to stop talking or murmuring or fearing, whatever they're doing. They're causing fear, uncertainty, and doubt, a stock term. But basically, he said no. And there is no punctuation. So I inserted my interpretation to say he said this with an exclamation mark, most likely. It takes wisdom to see where one would insert such marks, such as, punctuation, question marks, exclamation, and so on. The whole statement is very different from the Masoretic. So let's look at the Masoretic. It says, Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. He sounds kind of nerdy here. I mean, sorry, it doesn't sound as authoritative. He sounds not as confident. Whereas here he's like, no, we will go up by all means. Okay. That's very interesting. I think the whole tone is different. We see Joshua is very courageous, very bold. In verse 31, we see an omission here. What is the omission? That we will not go up. That's what the men responded to him. But the men went up together. So they gathered together. They got their gang and said, we will not go up For we shall not by any means be able to go up against this nation, against the nation, for it is much stronger than we. In the Masoretic, it just says, we're not able to. No, they are able to, but they reveal their heart. They said, we will not go up. They're set in they're set in that way. They're set in they've predetermined in their hearts. They're not going to do it. And nothing you say will change us, will change our minds. Their minds will not be changed. They will not be swayed, Joshua. That's what they're saying. And in verse 32, we see a term used here in the Septuagint saying, and they brought a horror of the land. In the Masoretic, it says a evil report, but it's so much more striking that it's a horror. It's not just a bad report. This is horrible. This is something that will strongly discourage the people, greatly discourage them from pursuing what Yah wants them to do. We have a huge difference as well, where it says, the people whom we saw in it are what? Are men of extraordinary stature, which implies that they are not regular people. They're not normal. They're superhuman. They are indeed giants, perhaps 10 to 30 feet tall. And the Masoretic confirms this as well. It says, man of a great stature, great height. Um, Again, but great stature could be 6 to 7 feet, but still within normal or ordinary limits. They're just ordinary people. And the Masoretic, no, they are extraordinary. They're supernatural. We haven't seen people like this before. Well, I mean, they didn't say that. I'm just filling that in. But they are extraordinary. They're not like any other people. And that was the horror. I mean, can you imagine you're fighting a country whose people are 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet tall? What kind of odds do you have against that kind of army? Verse 33, we see an addition here in the Masoretic. It says, there we saw the giants. So they were literally giants, the sons of Anak. It doesn't say that they were the sons of Anak. I'm not saying they weren't, but I'm just telling you that it wasn't originally in the original. So that's all I have for you today. It's a very interesting chapter. It really shines a light on the kind of person Caleb was and the kinds of people that were against him were as well. They were stubborn. They were going against the will of Yah, whereas Caleb was bold, fearless, and spoke with authority. He knew what he had to say to get the crowd to stop talking, to get their attention, and to encourage those who were for the Lord, who were for Yah. Again, these were not regular people they were fighting against. They were most definitely giants, as it says here, men of extraordinary stature, which implies they were at least 10 feet tall, maybe even 30 feet tall. Um, so that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for your time. May Yah bless you and make your way prosperous. Please give this video a like. Please subscribe to this channel, Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible, and hit the notification bell so you will know as soon as the newest video, the latest video is posted. Yah willing, we'll post Numbers chapter 14 for you tomorrow. And with that, I wish you all shalom and peace unto you and your households. You've been watching Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Shalom and peace.